Episode 136 of the Interpretation Station is Call to Order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say, dobrodošli svima, zdravo, kako ste, teste. Yes, as you can tell, this is a special episode for the followers of the Interpretation Station who have the language of, Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, Montenegrin. Are there any more that I've left out? In their combination, or as I like to call them on the Interpretation Station, I just group them all into one big bundle, and I call the language Jedi. That way, no one can take offense, no one can be unhappy. We just call it Jedi. Now, I haven't made one of these episodes for you Jedi speakers in a long time. It's been almost a year, or probably exactly a year. I'm on holiday right now, as it happens, and I am in Serbia. I have quite significant roots in this country. My mum is Serbian, and my wife is Serbian. I've been coming to the region since I was a nipper. Anyway, so because I was here, I thought, hell, it's really time I did another episode for you guys who have Jedi in your combination, whether that be as your mother tongue language, your A language, and you're going into English. Or for those of you actually who are not, whose mother tongue may be English or another sort of language, but who happen to have Jedi in one of the flavors of Jedi in your combination. And as a matter of fact, I know one guy I want to mention here, special mention for Mr. Pasquale Anguille. Hopefully I pronounced your name right, Pasquale. So I know that he is Italian, and I know that he has got, I believe it's Croatian in his combination. And I think about a year ago, I said last time, the next time that I made an episode, I would give him a special mention. I would dedicate the episode to him. Obviously, it's been a long time. As I say, over a year. But anyway, I got there in the end. So, Pasquale, this episode is for you. Now, before we get started, for those of you who are new to the Interpretation Station, perhaps, who haven't watched many episodes before, what are my credentials for telling you how to interpret into English from Jedi? Well, as I say, I've been coming to the region for many decades now. I was born in 1977, long time ago. And I used to come here. I used to come to what was then the former Yugoslavia every year throughout the 80s. I'd come and visit my grandparents who lived in Belgrade, and we'd usually go to the seaside for a couple of weeks. We'd go generally to Croatia. I remember this as a kid. We'd go to places like some of the towns that spring to mind: Zaostrog, Tučepi, Gdinj. Very fond memories, as I say, going there as a youngster. And then, obviously, the 1990s happened, didn't they? And then after that, well, I started, in 2004, I actually moved to Serbia. I lived in Serbia for 5 or 6 years, from 2004 to 2010. I was teaching in schools. I was working I worked for a TV station as a translator there, B92. So I worked there for like 3 years. So you guys from the region, you'll probably recognize the name. And so, as I say, I've got the Jedi language very much runs through my veins. I am officially registered. I could interpret from it pretty easily, but there's not much demand. Flex my Jedi muscles was actually I did a 1 month exchange with the European Parliament back in 2014, where having Croatian actually helped me get picked for that exchange. So I was working there for a month doing Croatian, and I met quite a few of the members of the Croatian booth when I was there in Brussels. So big hello to all of you guys. Anyway, so for today's episode, what have I got in store for you then? Well, I found a statement by Milo Djukanovic, president of Montenegro, speaking at it's the Eurasian Forum. the 25th Eurasian Economic Summit. And he was invited there by the president of the Marmara Foundation, Hakan Suver. And I think this took place in Istanbul. It was about a month ago, 8th of June. So I've actually recorded myself interpreting Djukanovic, okay? So you'll be able to see the interpretation station himself in action, okay? And I'm going to be just doing a sort of self-critique of my own work, all right? I'll be going through, you know, the language that I use, some of the techniques that I use to get through it. It's quite a challenging thing. He's a pretty clear speaker, but it's quite fast with a lot of detail. It's pretty dense. So you'll be seeing how I get through that statement, and we'll be looking at just some of the expressions that I chose and some of the expressions that, you know, I would now choose maybe in hindsight. And that way, hopefully, we can all learn some new expressions together, some new approaches. So the next voice you'll be hearing, the way we're going to do it is I'm just going to play the recording of myself interpreting, then I'll be stopping, and then I'll be just, you know, assessing what I've said and seeing if I could have done things any better. You guys who are used to the interpretation station, who are regulars, you'll know you'll be well familiar with the approach. So let's see how I did. I'll put a picture of myself there in the corner of me interpreting it live, so you can see the pained expression on my face as we go through it. And let's see what I did. So, as per usual practice, ladies and gentlemen, I will be leaving the links to the website that I found this web page on. This was actually the website of predsjednik.me. So this was just on the president's own website. You'll actually find the original video there with him speaking. And underneath you'll find the full transcript, so it's a good one. It gives you a good chance to practice and compare what you said to what Djukanovic actually said. And as I usually recommend to you, I would practice this yourself. Go through this statement, okay? Record yourself doing it, and then when you come back, then go through the transcript, compare, as I say, what you said to the original, and see what tips and tricks that I can give you during this episode. See what words of wisdom I can impart to you. So I will just play and then stop at the relevant moments. So here we go. Distinguished President of the Marmara Foundation, Mr. Suber, distinguished representatives of the host country, representatives of international, regional organizations and economic institutions, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why I'm being so quiet there. I think I felt a bit nervous. Yeah, even I got a bit nervous. See, when I haven't interpreted a language in a long time, it's like, oh, God. Start getting butterflies in my tummy. Okay, so yeah, Marmara Foundation it's called, all right? It's a particular pleasure for me to invitation of the president of the Marmara Foundation, a big friend of Montenegro, our consul Hakan Suver, to speak to you at the opening of the 25th Eurasian Economic Forum. Yeah, I don't know if you heard me. It's na poziv predsjednika, okay, at the invitation of the president of the Marmara Foundation and a big friend of Montenegro, počasni konsul. So I should have said here the honorary consul. Like the word honorary just didn't come to me in the moment, so I just skipped počasnog. Okay, I just said the consul Hakan Suver. It's a particular pleasure for me to invitation of the president of the Marmara Foundation, a big friend of Montenegro, our consul Hakan Suver, to speak to you at the opening of the 25th Eurasian Economic Forum, Jubilee year. Also notice here, so I say at the end, he says, Djukanovic says, jubilarnog 25. Evroazijskog ekonomskog foruma. So I said, I skipped the jubilee, I just said, okay, the 25th Eurasian Economic Forum, because, I could already tell he was going fast. So I dropped the jubilee, but then he pauses actually, Djukanovic, and so I see in that moment, all right, I'm just going to throw in the reference to the Jubilee, okay? It was a Jubilee year. So this is something you can do, okay? This is, again, a legitimate tactic when you're an interpreter. You take a decision in the moment, let's say you leave out an adjective, and then you finish the sentence, all fine, and then you realize you've just got this moment that maybe you take advantage of that moment just to add that little connotation, that adjective that you lost. So that's how I did it. At the opening of the 25th Eurasian Economic Forum, it was a Jubilee. It's a Jubilee year. Okay, so it's a big one. When we say it's a Jubilee year, it means it's a big one. So yeah, that's just a tiny little technique that you can apply sometimes, if the occasion allows. 25 years after its creation, the Forum has vindicated the goal of its founder and has become a center of open thought on challenges that our countries in this region face. Okay, so he's going along pretty fast. Kafa, Miro, dobre, pričaj, ne. A kafa, dobro, evo, stižem za minut. My apologies. My mother-in-law is telling me it's time for the midday cup of coffee. Mustn't miss that one. Where do we get to? Okay, so this is the četvrt vijek postojanja. Okay, so 20. I could have said, okay, a quarter of a century of its existence, for the quarter century of its existence, but that sounds a bit clunky in English. So I said 25 years after its creation. Potvrdio opravdanost. Okay. I think in English we can just say that. We can basically just put that into one word. Vindicated. I think I said the goal of its creator. I mean, literally, it's reaffirmed the justification of the idea of njegovih kreator, of their creators, rather, in the Marmara group. On behalf of Montenegro, I convey heartfelt greetings to you and wishes for every success in your future work. Okay, as you can see, I'm praying, my hands together. Upućujem vam srdačne čestitke. So again, the word you want with upućujem, and that tends to be, I think I said to convey, right? I convey congratulations, extend congratulations. Extend is perhaps the most versatile word. There's lots of things you can extend, right? Condolences, sympathies, congratulations, greetings. So extend. Remember that for upućujem, in that respect, in that context, the most versatile word is extend. And we wish you all the best in your future work. This year's forum takes place in a really changed geopolitical context, facing a war on the European mainland, whose consequences could be far-reaching. Continued. Okay. Now this is interesting word, isn't it? Like in Jedi, dočekujemo. Okay. You often hear that word, obviously, when you talk about New Year, gde ćeš da dočekaš Novu godinu. And the thing is, in English, we don't quite express it the same way as it's used in Jedi. I mean, for New Year, okay, where are we going to see in the New Year? We might say, I guess. So here it's like it wouldn't sound right to say we see in this year's forum an exceptionally changed geopolitical context. So that's why I heard him say Ovogodišnji forum, so I just rendered it immediately. This year's forum, dočekujemo. So I just decided in that moment just to go with is taking place. Okay, if I said it in exceptionally. Maybe in English we'd just say in an exceptionally different geopolitical context, facing a war na evropskom tlu, on the European continent, on the European mainland, on European soil. those are words that would fit there for tlu. And then also, I think here I said "Če posljedice." I mean, it's again, he speaks quite fast, and it's a lot of little words here. So if I look at it now, "Če posljedice još dugo nećemo moći u potpunosti sagledati," whose consequences we won't be able to foresee fully for a long time. That's a lot of little, small, dense words, okay, that you can sort of easily trip up with. And so often when I hear posljedice, the word that springs to mind is unforeseeable. Još dugo nećemo moći u potpunosti sagledati. So I think I said, what did I say? Geopolitical context facing a war on European mainland whose consequences could be far-reaching. Okay, so often the word also that comes to me for posljedice is far-reaching, which is perhaps not entirely the right meaning here. I think the best, whose consequences could be unforeseeable, unpredictable. You can certainly synthesize that whole još dugo nećemo moći u potpunosti sagledati into one or two words, but it's always good to think of consequences and to have a couple of typical collocations with consequences, whether that be, as I said, far-reaching or unforeseeable, unpredictable. Continued disruptions in relations between East and West have been most dangerously reflected by the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Yeah, with najopasniji izraz, their most dangerous, I said reflection, their most dangerous expression. I think both are fine there. I'm quite pleased. Also, Ruske Federacija, that's often I'll often see that when a speaker says federation, uses the full name federation. Often that's just a chance just to drop federation, to say Russia, the Russian aggression against Ukraine. The only time sometimes I might include federation, maybe when the Russians themselves are speaking. Maybe I'll say the Russian Federation first time and then just refer to it as Russia, but often that's the federation is something that I'll often just drop. The war, which has gone over for more than 100 days, has destroyed Ukrainian land, taken people's lives. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to leave their homes. I said razara ukrajinsku zemlju. I said destroy, which is fine. Perhaps devastate is perhaps a bit stronger. Usually, I guess for uništiti is usually the word, for destroy. Razarati, I think, is a bit bigger. So maybe you want devastate to really get that message across in terms of the impact. Huge problems with the production and provision of essential goods all around the world. Okay, so this sentence is fairly straightforward. Maybe the consequences, ozbiljne, serious, severe, realan potential. Notice how I went for genuine potential. I think that sounds slightly more English than the real potential, genuine potential. I think both are fine. Okay, snabdjevanju osnovnim životnim namirnica širom svijeta. This is an expression, this is something that's talked about a lot, that has been talked about a lot, especially since COVID times, osnovne životne namirnice, the whole idea of, I think I said essential goods. I think actually this is perhaps maybe basic foodstuffs. I'm thinking životne namirnice, basic foodstuffs, basic commodities, vital commodities, one of those sort of collocations. Inevitably, it's going to disrupt the supply chain, chiefly in Europe, the Eurasian region, which will almost certainly jeopardize plans to achieve the SDGs and the green transition. Okay, so I'm quite pleased how I sort of rendered that sentence, inevitably, okay? In fact, there's one thing I didn't quite get. Okay, poremećaja lanaca energetskog sistema. So disruptions to, now I think I talked about the supply chain here. Yeah, so I talk about the supply chain here. Often, when you hear about Lanuts these days, when you're talking about chains, it's usually to do with the supply chain. And I think I think I just maybe slipped behind him slightly. And so it should have really been the energy system chain. And this, okay, gotovo sigurno ugroziti. So I said jeopardize plans, threaten plans to achieve, okay, ciljevi održivog razvoja. This is a good chance. I was quite pleased when I heard this because I know I can just throw in immediately the acronym SDGs rather than having to say, the Sustainable Development Goals. Really, anyone any audience that's listening to this should know what the SDGs are. So I found that just a useful moment to throw in to use an acronym to help me catch up with them. Coupled with the adverse impact of COVID, which is going on, still the situation looks even more uncertain. Okay, coupled with. Okay, that tends to be, when something's bad. When we have one bad thing coupled with another, so that's why I put that in coupled with the. Did I say negative effect? The adverse impact, the detrimental impact. Just for alternatives to always saying negative. I think this is maybe something I bring up a lot in my episodes. I think I brought it up in episode 135 as well. That was for Spanish language, but anyway, it's always good to have synonyms for negative. Of the COVID pandemic, okay, koja još traje, which is still ongoing, perhaps, would be the best way of expressing that. The pandemic, more than ever, highlighted the need for international cooperation and joint responsibility for tackling global problems and providing appropriate responses to new threats and challenges. Istakla neophodnost, I said highlighted the need. You can underscore the need. Zajednička odgovornost, a joint responsibility, shared responsibility. Shared common responsibility for tackling global issues, providing an adequate, appropriate response to challenges and threats. Today, in times of aggression, very close to us, we are more aware than ever that wars and conflict aren't the solution. Okay, so u neposrednoj blizini, perhaps if in hindsight now, maybe in times of aggression, on our doorstep is a sort of would be a nice sort of idiomatic way of putting that. U neposrednoj blizini, on our doorstep. I think I just said, or in our vicinity is perhaps very good as well. I said very close to us, which is a register down from those two I've just given you. It does the job. I mean, it conveys the meaning. And I quite like how I just basically said war and conflict aren't the solution. I didn't, I basically left out, I basically edited out put do nisu put do rješenje. They're not the path towards the solution. That sounds a bit ugly in English, so I just said that these aren't the solution. That can only be brought about by political dialogue, and dialogue means mutual respect and understanding. Violence and foisting one's will on someone else leads into oblivion. Okay. It means, tolerancja, I said I heard međusobno uvažavanje, respect, and understanding. Often those two concepts that go hand in hand. I'd forgotten what the tolerancias. Okay, so it means, pretpostavlja, it means tolerance and mutual respect, involves tolerance and mutual respect. Put u sunovrat. I think, what did I say is the road to oblivion. Now, this is an interesting little word, put u sunovrat. Now, the best actual solution, having thought about it, would perhaps be the road to ruin. Violence and foisting one's will, nametanje volje, foisting, imposing one's will on others is the road to ruin. Now I said oblivion, which is gets sort of more or less gets the message across. It's interesting. I looked up on the online dictionary looked up for Croatian just out of interest, and I see that Sunavrat there, it's a kind of plant, a narcissus plant. Now, certainly in Serbian and Montenegrin, Sunavrat is used to mean, ruin, collapse. But anyway, there's a little interesting vocabulary factoid. Can any Croatians confirm that? So Sunavrat, you don't really use that so much. Is that what do you usually? Because when it comes up on the dictionary that I looked up, all it just gave me was this meaning of this plant. They said narcissus, daffodil. They didn't have any reference to ruin. But anyway, maybe someone can just confirm that for me. The gravity of the current moment requires more cooperation, responsibility, determination, and unity. Okay, I got all those nouns. Odgovornost, odlučnosti, jedinstvo. I think I did all that well. And ozbiljnost aktualnog trenutka. I said the gravity, the severity as a good alternative. The seriousness. I'm always a bit loath to use the seriousness. I don't think it sounds very nice in English. The world as we knew it before no longer exists. It seems certain that we're witnessing the start of a new geopolitical cycle. This is all pretty clear. There's nothing too difficult in those two sentences. No one can safely say how it will look. Okay, so that's a quite English thing to say. Sa sigurnošću. No one can safely say. So that, as opposed to, you could say, okay, no one can say with certainty. You can also say that in English, but that's something we'll say a lot in English. I can safely say that the Interpretation Station is the best channel on YouTube, for example. So that sounds that's the most natural way I think we would say it in English. There's never been so much unpredictability in global relations than it is today. Again, a slightly awkward, ugly-sounding noun, unpredictability. I mean, again, this sentence in English, I think the most natural way to say it in English is maybe we would say things have never been so unpredictable in global relations as they are today. I mean, if you want to get in this word, immanentnia, unpredictability has never been so imminent in global relations as it is today. So, some sort of variation on some of the ideas I've given you there. The only thing that is certain is that we face a new polycentric geopolitical architecture which will increase the interdependence of all its players and which could lead to further marginalization of smaller countries. Okay, so I'm sort of just about keeping up here. Pojačavati međuzavisnost. Okay, međuzavisnost is a very important concept to be familiar with whenever doing anything like this in international relations, interdependence. I said will increase interdependence, enhance, bolster interdependence of all its actors. And I said players. I could have just said actors, I guess. Light at the end of the tunnel are discussions today and tomorrow in the forum of ways to better identify ways in future to more effectively address existing problems. Now, I don't quite know here. I think I just misheard something here, and I started thinking, Tom Svietlu. I started, for some reason, the idea of the light at the end of the tunnel came to me here. I don't know why. So that's clearly a mistake. So it should have just have been. It's in that light that we view today's and tomorrow's discussions at the forum as a chance to better identify possibilities for more quickly and effectively addressing gorućih problema, such urgent problems, burning issues, We're pleased by the broad spectrum of participants at the forum and covering all areas of decision-making, local, national, regional, international levels. Okay, the broad spectrum, širok spektar, broad range. Maybe you could say širok spektar, the plethora. We are pleased by the plethora of participants at the forum. So we are certain that the forum will live up to expectations. Okay, that's an important sort of, again, collocation in English to be comfortable with. Opravdati očekivanja, to live up to expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say a few words on behalf of Montenegro. Okay, just one thing to say here. So I say ladies and gentlemen. Now, often I will tell you on my episodes that when you have a sort of statement like this and when the speaker then just pauses and goes, ladies and gentlemen, in whatever language it happens to be, often I will actually just skip that. I just won't bother. You don't lose anything, I think, by skipping it, and it gives you a chance to get your breath back. So in this instance, I did actually say it. I said ladies and gentlemen, but just for you to know that if you're struggling, that's a good moment, as I say, just to get a little break and just let him say, you know, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, whatever it may be. Now, for some reason, dozvolite da saopštim nekoliko riječi o Crnoj Gori. How's my jekavica, by the way? So usually you non-Jedi native speakers, you see, in Serbian you speak ekavica. So in Serbian we wouldn't say riječi, we'd say reči. Like in Croatian, jekavica, they say the years. So this is slightly unusual for me because I have to do the jekavica. That's for you, Pasquale. There's a bit of knowledge for you. Jekavica versus ekavica. Anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, for some reason I said on behalf of Montenegro, nekoliko riječi o Crnoj Gori. So it should have just been a few words about Montenegro. Montenegro has come a long way in development since achieving independence in 2006. Today it's Montenegro has come a long way since usually with independence the collocation is acquiring or gaining, since gaining independence in 2006. I mean, he actually talks about put razvoja, prošla važna put razvoja nakon obnove državne nezavisnosti. So what he literally says is after the restoration of state independence in 2006. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so Montenegrins out there, but if I'm not mistaken, that for a brief period of time in between World War I and World War II, Montenegro was an independent state briefly before I think it then became part of the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. Was that the full name of it? Anyway, that's why I think he talks about the obnova državne nezavisnosti. NATO and a candidate country of the EU, a leader in the negotiating process with the EU. Economically, the country has achieved excellent results, has had stable growth in the pre-pandemic period and continuity of high foreign investment, chiefly in major infrastructure projects and building new tourism infrastructure. Okay, it's getting quite dense, a lot of information here. As I said, achieved excellent result, veoma dobre rezultate. Stabilne stope rasta, growth rates. Continued high foreign investment. Obviously, that's a big thing for these countries, like these middle-income countries. How much foreign investment? Often you call it FDI, foreign direct investment. So that's a useful acronym for you just to be aware of. Growth in investment has brought with it a improvement in standard of living, but the goal of achieving a European standard of living is still far off. Standard of living or quality of life. I think in the English-speaking world, we tend to talk about standard of living. In fact, he's got životni standard, and then kvalitet života. So I think here, yeah, increase for životni standard, you can go for the standard of living here. Kvalitet života, quality of life. I think generally, as I say, we tend to speak more about the standard of living in the Anglosphere, but you can use both expressions generally. Montenegro faces major challenges going forward, further strengthening of democratic institutions, enhancing rule of law as an imperative for structural diversification of its economy. So when they say pred Crnom Gorom, and then there was a similar expression actually earlier on in the text. I didn't mention it before. So pred nama nova policentrična geopolitička arhitektura. So when you have one of these sort of pred nama, whatever, so I would just say it's easier, rather than saying before us is, that you render it as just we face. I think it's we face gives you more options. Going into the rest of the sentence. So we hear in this case it was we face a new polycentric geopolitical architecture, and down here pred Crnom Gorom, Montenegro faces years of major challenges. Okay. Further strength, further sustain. Održiv razvoj is sustainable development. Further sustainable strengthening doesn't sound very good in English. Further ongoing strengthening of democratic institutions. Unapređenje vladavine prava, enhancing the rule of law, as well as vital structural diversification of its economy. Or you can say her economy. Okay, so we can talk about countries as women. We could say Montenegro. Yeah, in English we do sometimes we can refer to countries as females. So further diversification of her economy. Bit sexist, no? What's Montenegro's greatest asset, which today and during the military wars in the 1990s is its stability and multi-ethnic democracy. Okay, so you can see I'm struggling a little bit here. Najveće bogatstvo Crne Gore. So the first word that came to mind there was her greatest asset, maybe her greatest blessing. However, what's Montenegro's greatest blessing? Which helped it both overcome brojnim pritiscima, great pressure today, as well as during the conflicts in the Balkans of the 90s, ratnih sukoba, during the military conflict, just during the conflicts, its stability and multi-ethnic democracy. European Montenegro is a key developmental and civilization pathway for our country. Građanska Crna Gora. He was going very fast, so I just dropped. You got two adjectives here, like građanska, evropska, and you know, if you are going very fast, sometimes these adjectives fall by the wayside. So I just said European Montenegro. I thought that was the more important one to get in. Građanska, could have said civic and European Montenegro remains a key developmental and civilizational, what I say, pathway for our country. That sounds quite UNese. They like to talk about pathways at the UN. Direction or priority for our country. Good neighborly relations, cooperation with countries in Southeast Europe, including with the Republic of Turkey and other countries in the region, remain an important focus for us in that regard. Good neighborly relations, that's something I talk about frequently. The Republic of Turkey, at the UN, we actually received a bulletin about a month ago that we are to refer to Turkey, at least at the UN now, we're meant to call them Turkiye. So It's interesting. I don't know. Apparently, Turkey is worried that there's going to be some confusion. Montenegro is firmly committed to the fact that diversity and coexistence of various religions and nations are the greatest wealth of any nation. Snažno držimo, maybe, I said, we firmly believe, I could have just said, we firmly believe that raznolikost, so diversity, that's an important word to remember, for Jedi C's. That's they don't really tend to talk about diversitet, for example, in Jedi. So raznolikost is diversity. Suživot, coexistence. Again, these are sort of buzzwords, certainly where I work. Diversity, coexistence. Again, existencia, you won't hear that. So it's important just to be able to spot those two buzzwords. Coexistence between different beliefs and nations. Again, he uses this bogactwo svakog društva, are the greatest, the greatest wealth of every society. Don't really like that. Maybe I could have gone with the asset again, or the blessing, the greatest blessing of any society. I like blessing. That's really growing on me as a solution for bogactwo in that context. We believe in dialogue and cooperation and all international levels that we operate in. I think I didn't hear the verb podstičemo, that we promote. We promote them equally in all international okvirima, in all international contexts that we actively cooperate in. Sudjelujemo. So basically just saying we believe in dialogue and cooperation, and we promote them equally in all international environments, if you like, that we work in. Keep it simple, maybe, some of these words. The Eurasian region, like the Balkans, is a bridge and has often been a scene of clashing interests. This is a tricky sentence. This spoj različitosti. The only thing I could think of in that moment was like a bridge, okay? Eurasia. I'm thinking Istanbul, they always talk, it's like a bridge between continents. So I'm sort of thinking on my feet. I can't quite find the best expression for it. I kind of think that what he's actually basically saying is that it's like a melting pot. I think that's perhaps what he's getting at. A melting pot, a melting pot of different cultures, and has often been poprište suprotstavljenih interesa, and has often been a scene, has been for poprište, an arena of conflicting interests, is perhaps the best for suprotstavljenih interesa. So that's a good collocation to have with an interest. Okay, conflict. You talk about conflicts of interest, right? So conflicting interests. We must do more to ensure that tolerance should overcome hatred. That's the only way to achieve conditions where our countries can stay in stability, move forward. I thank you. Tough ending. So učinimo, let's do more. What did I say? I think I said we must do more to ensure that. Okay, I missed this. Da vrijednost mira trajno nadvladava nepromišljenost rata. So that slipped me by. I couldn't find the words for that. Okay, so that tolerancija potisne mržnju, for tolerance to prevail over hatred. So let's just see what the best way of me doing this is, so that the value of peace, trajno nadvlada, can forever prevail over nepromišljenost. So I think a good solution here could be recklessness. The value of peace can forever prevail over the recklessness of war, and that tolerance can overcome hatred. So for these words like nadvlada, potisne, you want your words like, as I say, overcome, surmount, prevail over, trump. And that's the only way we can create conditions in which countries da naše zemlje stabilno I kontinuirano napredovati. So I said, I think I finished, that our countries can instability move forward. I guess looking at it now, maybe we could say that's the only way that we can create conditions in which our countries can move forward in stability and continuity, would perhaps be the smoothest way of rendering that final sentence into English. So there you go. That was Milo Djukanovic, president of Montenegro, for you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. As I say, it's been the first time back on the horse for a while. Maybe I was a bit rusty here and there. It was my first attempt actually interpreting Serbian, Jedi, in a year, so I was a bit rusty. But anyway, I hope we've learned a couple of new words, a couple of new tricks, a couple of new techniques when interpreting. If you've enjoyed the episode, please do give me a like. Please do subscribe. Please do share the good news about the interpretation station with your friends. Do tell them all that he's making episodes into from Jedi once more. If you anything that you've learned, anything new that you've learned, please do put it in the comments. Would you like me to make some more while I'm here? I've got free time on my hands, so maybe I could make a couple more while I'm at it. Nadam se da je ovo možda vama bilo od koristi I bilo mi je drago da malo pričamo sa vama još jednom. Idem ja sad malo da se sunčam, sad je vreme 3 sata, idem da ručam, onda da malo sunčam, da iskoristim ovo lepo vreme ovde u Čačku. Danas je 30 stepeni, tako da je baš super vreme. Ja ne mogu da se žalim, ništa, nadam se da ćemo se vidjeti ponovo uskoro I that means that there's nothing more left to be said other than that episode 136 of the interpretation station stands adjourned.